What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the FF Ballbusters podcast. My name is Will. Joining me is my co-host Eric, and today we're talking wide receiver buys and sells for the 2023 Dynasty wide receiver landscape. But before we get into that, Eric, you got anything for the people?
Yeah, man, just big shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for all the support that we've been getting as of late, but we want to keep that momentum going. So if you guys are enjoying the content, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. It would mean so very much to us if you could hit that sub button. Again, if you're liking it, hit the like button as well, and also hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all of our latest videos. And lastly, make sure to leave a comment down below, whether you have a specific trade question after watching this video, whether you agree, disagree with some of our buy targets, our sell targets, any of that stuff. Let us know what you think down in the comments, and we will make sure to respond to you.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into it. As per usual, we're going to be using Keep Trade Cut as sort of our barometer for the value of these players, and we're going to go ahead and get into it. So, Eric, who's the first wide receiver that you have on your buys list?
Yeah, so this one can be a quick one because I don't think it's necessarily like a rankings discrepancy where I think he's valued inappropriately. I think he's probably valued where he should be. I'm talking about Tank Dell. But the reason I bring him up is because of the injury. He's going to be out for the season. And so I think that makes him, I think this opens a buy window to get Tank Dell off of contenders who are looking to replace him with another valuable piece in their push for a championship. So even I would go so far as to say, even if you can't get an injury discount, I would buy him at face value on a rebuilding team because I think that he's going to come back at full health in 2024, and the connection that he has with CJ Stroud has proved to be quite good. So yeah, he's somebody that I'm definitely looking to target on a rebuilder.
I absolutely agree, especially if you're a rebuilder with CJ Stroud. Like Eric said, if you want to get that stack, I think that'd be pretty juicy. It's something you should probably prioritize this offseason, to be honest with you. I think that's lovely. I love
Absolutely.
that pick. For my first buy that I have on the list, I've got Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos, who has quietly been having his best season since that 2019 sort of breakout season we've been hoping he could get back to. He's got 9 touchdowns so far on the season. He's got a pretty good target share with the offense. I believe it's somewhere around 23%. But he's just been performing at sort of the level we've hoped that he could, and the situation could be getting even better for him volume-wise. Jerry Jeudy kind of has one foot out the door. It seems like he's going to be traded pretty soon. Marvin Mims may be the guy for the future, but again, him and Courtland Sutton are going to serve completely different roles for this team in terms of being receivers. And also Courtland Sutton, he's 28 years old. He's going into, I believe, 2 team option years on his contract, which I feel like the team isn't going to pass up on at this point. And he's become a favorite target of Russell Wilson. So I think going forward, he may be a good value on a lot of contending teams. If you're trying to get that extra bump in points, I think he could be someone good to have on your team that you could get for pretty cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's like the operative word there is if you're on a contending team from that perspective, then he's definitely valued too low. At wide receiver 44, considering he's producing at a wide receiver 2 level right now on the season, I think he's definitely worth it. And like you said, you can definitely get him for cheap. I will express a little bit of concern that I think that his fantasy numbers are bolstered by those high touchdown rates. But, for the rest of this season, it seems like that is going to continue. That trend has persisted throughout the season. We'll see what it means in 2024 and how that situation plays out. But also, to your point, Jerry Jeudy could be out the door, and so it could mean even more consistent volume his way.
Absolutely. Who do you have next on your list for buys?
The next one for me, it's going to be Puka Nacua, man. I'm once again asking for you to buy Puka Nacua, and yes, I'm going to put the meme on the screen. It's right there. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Puka Nacua is legit. Like, I get that he wasn't a great prospect coming out of college. I know that he didn't get the best draft capital. And so I understand why, some people might be hesitant to rank him among other young wide receivers that check both of those boxes, like the Garrett Wilsons, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, that are in that kind of same value range. But at a certain point, I feel like we have to let go of our priors and really appreciate what he's doing right now. His current 17-game pace is ridiculous. We're talking 167 targets, 109 receptions, 1,458 yards, and 6 touchdowns. This guy's balling. He's outpacing all 3 of the guys that I just named in every category for their rookie season, and for this season, for that matter. And not only that, but he's actually on pace to break Jamar Chase's rookie receiving record. So I don't know what else you need to see to prove to yourself that this guy is the truth, but I'm willing to put him up into that category with those guys around the wide receiver 7-8 range.
No, I absolutely 100% agree. I think Puka has proven himself over this point. Like at first we were like, oh, he's just getting all these targets because Cooper Kupp's not there. Cooper Kupp got back. He's still getting all these targets, and they're still both heavily featured in this offense. There's still like some slight concerns around Puka in terms of like, I guess, the situation going forward, but nothing that's really too concerning. I feel like at a certain point you just got to buy in on talent, and this is somebody that the team believes in, and I believe it's someone we should believe in going forward. Like you said, like the capital and stuff wasn't there, but seeing him out there on the NFL field and where that actually matters, he's done everything he needs to do. So I love Puka.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's a good point. Like draft capital matters and stuff like that matters, but NFL production is what matters the most, and that's what we're seeing out of him right now. I do want to acknowledge that you're right. There is some question marks about his future, whether Matt Stafford leaves, whether Sean McVay leaves, and that should be baked into his price a little bit, which is why I'm not willing to necessarily vault him above all of those guys, but kind of put him into that same range. But again, it's not like Garrett Wilson is in a great situation that we know what the outcome is going to be. Jalen Waddle isn't going to, surpass Tyreek Hill in the next 2 years while he's still under contract. Chris Olave still has Derek Carr at quarterback. Like all these guys have question marks, so I think he belongs right in that range with them.
No, I absolutely agree. Absolutely. Moving to the next player that I have on my list of buys, I've got another Texans wide receiver. I've got Mr. Nico Collins, someone who has been on the rise as of late. So unfortunately, the price is going to be a little bit higher than obviously would have been during the offseason or earlier in the season. But I don't believe that, it's too late to get in on him now. But I do feel like he's someone you should prioritize because so far in this offense, this season so far, 24.1% target share. He's running routes on 83.7% in terms of route participation. So not amazing. It's not 100% like you want to see like out of an alpha, but he is still putting up great numbers and he's doing a lot with it. He's got 10 red zone targets. He's been able to convert 7 of those. He's got 11 deep targets. He's just somebody they're using all over the field and they're getting him really more involved week after week. And it's just really good to see that he's finally having that breakout we've been looking for. And also he's still really young. I believe he's only 24 years old still. So he's still got a lot of time in the league. He's attached to obviously CJ Stroud, who is looking to keep, getting better and better as time goes along. So just a great quarterback to be attached to. So I really do just love Nico Collins as a buy. I'm interested to see what the price is on Nico Collins in terms of like, the Dynasty community value, but I do feel like it's not too high to get in on him now.
Yeah, I like Nico Collins a lot. I think he's somebody that I would target regardless of your team situation, but I think, one, I would recommend it more if you're a contender, and I think it'll just be easier if you're a contender looking to buy him off of a rebuilder that don't want his production, are trying to reduce their max points for and, really secure their draft pick at this point, because Nico Collins is about to go off with Tank Dell out. We saw immediately once he went down in this past week's game how heavily he was targeted and how involved he was down the field. That's only going to continue throughout the rest of the season and the fantasy playoffs. So if you're a contender, he's definitely somebody I'm looking to get.
Absolutely. Down the stretch, he should be great.
For sure.
And with that being said, who do you have left on your list of buys, Eric?
For my next buy, I have DJ Moore, actually. He's currently listed, where's he at? The wide receiver 20. I just think he's definitely exceeded my expectations for him so far this season. He's currently sitting at the wide receiver 9 in terms of points per game on the season so far. He's also amongst the league leaders in some really important stats that I think are indicative of fantasy success. He's top 5 in yards per route run versus man coverage and first in the league in fantasy points per target versus man coverage. And seeing those things kind of gives me even more confidence that this production isn't fluky. He really is legit. He's finally producing at the level that we've always hoped that he would. And he's also managed to have that level of success with a combination of Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent throwing him the ball. And he's probably likely to have Caleb Williams throwing him the ball next year. So I'd be even more excited for that going into the future.
Absolutely. I just want to say, DJ Moore, thank you for giving me a reason to believe in you again. It's been a long time, and he's finally doing what he's supposed to be doing out there on the field, and it's lovely to see. And like you said, with the possibility of Caleb Williams being the guy throwing him the ball next year, yeah, the sky could be the limit because he's doing it this year with Tyson Bagent and Justin Fields, and that's amazing to see. So absolutely believe DJ Moore should be there. And with that being said, we're going to get into the more negative part of the video, the part that's going to get all the all the comments. We're going to talk about ourselves and guys we think you should get off of your team, especially if you're a rebuilding team or, I don't know. So I think for mine, I guess, is really if you're a rebuilding team or if you're looking for, if it's kind of an unstable situation going forward. But I kind of want to let you kick off the sells as well. Who do you have for your first sell on the list?
Okay. Mine might be from a little bit of a different lens, at least for this first guy, because my first sell is going to be Jordan Addison. He's currently sitting as the wide receiver 13. His value has already dropped off a little bit since Kirk Cousins got hurt, but I think it will likely drop off even further with the return of Justin Jefferson. So this is something where you probably want to act fairly quickly before the start of next week when Justin Jefferson will be back. I want to make sure you guys understand I like Jordan Addison. I think he's really talented. I think he's proven, that he is an NFL level talent that can produce at a high level when he's the one in the offense. But it's more about situation for me than his talent because, with Justin Jefferson coming back, being the best wide receiver in the league, he's going to be pushed back into a lesser role. And he's unlikely to be a substantial contending asset for the rest of the season. And really, also without clarity in Minnesota at the quarterback position in the future, and with a stacked 2024 wide receiver class coming into the NFL next year, his value for the remainder of his rookie contract, I don't think is really that likely to increase by much either. So in whatever context you want to look at it, I think he's probably going to decrease in value. His ranking is going to go down on keep, trade, cut, which is why I'm trying to get rid of him now.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where you should try to strike while the iron's hot. And right now it's hotter than it's probably ever going to be honest. Because like you said, Justin Jefferson coming back, it's only going to hurt his value, to be honest, like you said, because obviously he's going to take a lot of the volume there. So I like that a lot, especially with the production we saw from Jordan Addison while Justin Jefferson was there. It was always kind of spotty and weird and not very sustainable. And if we see that and go back to that model for sure, his value is definitely going to drop. So I love that take. Yeah. Somebody that I have on my list of sells, I feel like somebody we kind of always have on the list of sells. I've got Deebo Samuel for the 49ers. It's not that I don't believe in Deebo or think that he's a good player. Where is he ranked at currently? He is down
24,
here.
I believe.
Yep, wide receiver 24. And obviously he's coming off of a big game, so his value could end up changing throughout this week as well. But again, I don't think those numbers are coming off of anything that's super sustainable. Obviously he had a great game receiving. Brandon Ayuk was still able to find some success receiving as well. One of his touchdowns came off the ground, which I don't believe that's going to keep happening. Obviously, I think that's something that's going to be pretty spotty. It's just tough to find consistency in a Deebo Samuel, and I feel like it's going to be tough to find consistency in him going forward. So in terms of trying to get him while the iron, or not trying to get him while the iron's hot, but trying to sell him while the iron's hot, there's definitely going to be some contenders out there who are looking for players that are performing at the level that Deebo's performing at, especially after this past week. So his value in terms of trading him, in terms of real life, in terms of home leagues, you should be able to get a good amount for Deebo, especially to a contending team. But he's somebody that I wouldn't want on my team, especially if I was rebuilding. I'm trying to get those points off of the team. But I'm also trying to look for players who are more consistent than Deebo Samuel as well on a week-to-week. So he's somebody I would try to sell at this point.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I think that there's an argument to be made, which you acknowledge as well. If you are a contender, I think that he's a decent buy. But again, not going to have the consistency, not going to have the week-to-week upside necessarily. And this is definitely the time to do it, coming off of the massive blow-up week. Mm-hmm. I'm curious your take, his future outlook, because we've talked about this in the past in terms of Brandon Ayuk, where we think not both of them are going to stay. Deebo's already got the contract. Brandon Ayuk is going to be looking for the contract this offseason, and they're probably not going to be able to retain both receivers. I don't know that there's any indication as to which one is going to stay and which one is going to go. I would probably lean towards the guy that already is under contract. But if that's the case and Deebo stays and Brandon Ayuk leaves, does that make you more willing to hold on to him? What happens then?
If Deebo's the sole wide receiver there, I'd be willing to hold on to him. But the situation where Deebo is gone and Brandon Ayuk stays, I would be trying to get rid of Deebo. Because being honest with you, I don't see too many team situations where Deebo continues to be this successful. You know what I mean? Especially in terms of the dual threat that he is. I don't think that continues anywhere else but here. But if he's the sole person here, just him and Kittle and McCaffrey, I think there's a lot of room for Deebo to find success, which we've seen this season. He's performed pretty well. But if it's Ayuk here and he leaves, I think it's the opposite.
I think that's a fantastic point, and I would completely agree. If you can get maybe above what you think market value should be for him based on this last week's performance, I'm absolutely looking to sell. But I don't know that for me at least, I don't know that he'd be a priority sell at this point. But I absolutely understand your perspective there.
And who else do you have on your sells list, sir?
Yeah, so speaking of guys coming off of a massive blow-up week, we're going to talk about DK Metcalf now. Another guy that we've been talking about as a sell for quite some time, and I still believe in it. He was the wide receiver 29 in points per game prior to this week at just over 10 points per game. This week was only his fourth game with over 20 half PPR fantasy points in the last 3 seasons. So he just hasn't been like a difference-making asset for fantasy, especially not consistently, similar to what we just talked about with Deebo. He's also been outproduced by his teammate Tyler Lockett in 3 of the last 4 seasons. And also, Geno hasn't played nearly as well as he did last season, and he has an out in his contract after this year. So there's a potential question mark at the quarterback position for the future. Plus, JSN starting to show signs of why he was picked in the first round. He's starting to kind of gain some momentum in this offense and be used more. So I just think that this one blow-up week isn't indicative of future success for DK, and I think we should look at the full body of work. And if people are trying to buy at the prices that, are going to go up after this week's performance, I think I'd be willing to sell for that.
No, I absolutely agree with that 100%. I think this is a great opportunity to try to sell him as well, especially after that blow-up game, because to be honest with you, it's funny, but I'm one of the people, I don't really think Deron Bland is all that good. And I feel like this was just the week he got to play against a decent wide receiver, and this is kind of what happens. But yeah, at the same time, all jokes aside, I do think that right now is a good opportunity because Jackson Smith-Njigba is starting to arise. I think he is going to start having those real, down the stretch games that he's going to start picking up a lot. And now's a good opportunity to sell DK because he just doesn't really command that volume on a week-to-week, especially if JSN does get going. I don't see those numbers being great for DK.
For sure.
And with that being said, I'm going to get into my last sell that I've got on here. And again, this is not a player I don't believe in. This is not a player that I think is a priority sell. This is not somebody I believe that, isn't going to find success in the future. I just believe his price is the highest it's going to be right now, going forward. And that's Michael Pittman. So Michael Pittman's found a lot of success in these past few weeks. And he's been really good. But it's not under the real structure that this team is going to be under going forward too much. It's been Gardner Minshew, who has had a pretty good habit of throwing the ball to the same guy over and over again. He does do that a lot throughout his career. But with that even being said, going forward, Anthony Richardson's going to be back at some point for this team. You know what I mean? And while Michael Pittman was pretty heavily featured in the offense still then, when this thing gets rolling at the point where we think it's going to get rolled into with Jonathan Taylor at full health as well, because remember, he was getting all that volume. Jonathan Taylor was not back yet. But if this team really gets rolling the way they want to with this run-heavy offense, with Anthony Richardson at full health and with Jonathan Taylor at full health, that's going to cap Michael Pittman. He's going to end up having to be really, really efficient with the numbers he gets. And what have we not seen from Michael Pittman his entire career? We have not seen efficiency from Michael Pittman out of his entire career. He's been somebody who has relied on volume for a majority of it, and he's going to continue to get that. I'm not saying he's not, because he is the alpha for this team. He's the best wide receiver. Josh Downs is starting to sort of emerge as well, but he's better than Alec Pierce as well. So it's really just going to be those two. But I feel like in terms of value, this is probably the highest it's going to ever get for Michael Pittman. So if you're looking to sell him, you're on a team that has those points, and you're looking to get rid of those points, and you're rebuilding, and you're looking to sell Michael Pittman, I think now is the opportunity. You could get a good amount for him. I think if you're on a contending team, obviously you're going to want to hold Michael Pittman and see what happens. But if you're looking to sell, I think this is the buy window that is starting to open for Michael Pittman right now.
I actually like this one a lot. When you first mentioned it, I wasn't sure how I felt because Michael Pittman has kind of been underrated, I feel like, just based on the production that he's had so far this season. But you make a very good point that things are definitely going to change when Anthony Richardson comes back under center. I don't have the splits necessarily in front of me, but I'm just looking at his game logs for when he had Anthony Richardson versus Gardner Minshew. 3 out of the 5 games that he had Anthony Richardson throwing to him, he was under 10 fantasy points. And since Gardner Minshew has been the starting quarterback for them, not a single game under 10 points. He's been incredibly consistent. The target share has gone up and has been more consistent week to week. Obviously, that also leads to the receptions going up, yardage, touchdown, all that stuff. It goes up with Gardner Minshew. And you made a good point about the running game as well. With Anthony Richardson back, they're going to be running it more. With Jonathan Taylor fully healthy, they're going to be running it more. So, yeah, I think this opens up a good window for sure, especially after, again, another big week for Michael Pittman here. I think this is the perfect opportunity to ship him off for a really good value. We're not shipping him for pennies, like you mentioned at the top. This isn't a priority sell, but if you can get him for maybe above market value, definitely a good opportunity right now.
Absolutely.
And then I have just a couple honorable mentions. That's kind of the whole list that we wanted to talk about in depth, but just some guys to put on your radar. Davonte Adams, I feel like is way too low. Where is he even ranked right now? Sitting at 27.
My goodness, yeah.
Like, I get that he's 31, but he's not falling off. He's still Davonte Adams. And I wholeheartedly believe that he's going to be on a contending team with a much better quarterback next year. And with that in mind, he's going to be back producing, at a top 5 level, I think, for the next couple years. I don't think he's slowing down. And so I think he's probably either like a now or an early offseason buy, maybe even for rebuilders if you're looking to compete next year. Like if you're ready to turn that rebuild into a competing team, he's definitely somebody to consider. The Green Bay wide receivers I think are also a buy, guys like Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. I'm starting to come around on Jordan Love. I think he's starting to look like he's for real. I'm starting to buy in a little bit, and unfortunately Christian Watson just can't stay healthy. I don't want to put the injury prone tag on him, and typically if you've been around on the channel, Will and I are probably the last people that are going to put the injury prone tag on somebody. It's just a violent sport, and that's what happens. But man, it's been a lot of hamstring injuries for Christian Watson. So yeah, Jaden Reed has proven to me that he's quite talented. I think he can have a big role on this team. Dontavian Wicks, similar situation. And then lastly, Diontae Johnson. Similar to Davonte Adams, I think he's very talented and is going to be on a new team next year, hopefully in a better situation. Diontae, I think, is all the way down at he's in 41. The 40s or something.
He's at 41 right there.
41, that's crazy, bro. He's way too talented for that. I get that the production hasn't backed that up, but I think that's coming when he hopefully ends up on a new team next year.
Yeah, like if you're telling me I could trade Jamison Williams for Diontae Johnson, probably plus like a little bit of value, I'm smashing that button as soon as I can. Literally, I might break my phone.
Immediately.
I might break my phone.
Completely agree.
And then someone else that I had is sort of like a buy. I'm not saying go and break the bank on him or anything like that, because I've just been keeping an eye on the past few weeks. Rashee Rice has been playing, getting some consistent targets for just like the last 2 weeks. Nothing crazy, but like he's been above 8 targets for the last 2 weeks straight, which is, kind of interesting to see in that Chiefs offense. I'm not going to lie to you. T. Higgins, He's always a buy. We're not going to talk about that. He's just always a buy. And Stefon Diggs as a sell on a non-contending team. I feel like you could sell him to a contender.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, just turned 30, stuff like that. Don't want him to retire on your team if you're rebuilding. So,
very true.
Yeah. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, make sure you guys do all that great YouTube stuff. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you know when we drop all of our latest videos. And let us know in the comments down below what you think about any of our buys and sells. Did we make or miss the mark on any of them? Is there anybody that you guys feel are buys or sells down below? Let us know in the comments down below. And hit that like button. It's absolutely free, and it's the best way to get our stuff out there into the YouTube algorithm. But with that being said, Eric, you got anything else for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, just real quickly, check the links in the description, man. We got some good stuff down there, especially our Discord if you're interested in being part of our community. It's ever growing. We're talking in there every single day about Dynasty related things, whether it be, trade targets, buys and sells, roster decisions, roster construction, even everyday things, just regular. We're having a good time over there, so come be part of the community. And also to our sponsor, Do Numbers. I'm wearing one of the hoodies right now, so if you're interested in getting some cool apparel, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, any sort of merch like that, use the link in our description to get 15% off over at Do Numbers. But I think that's all I got. So, as always, if you guys have stuck with us till the end, we love you, and we will catch you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.